to break down kind of a summary of a lot of the videos that have led to these conclusions. When you're looking at the statement of birth record, why the government basically would not allow this to be used for identification as a legal identification. It's not for that purpose. Okay, it's not to identify a legal person. It may look like it, implies to be such on the surface, but the fact that they would categorize the document not to be, for a lot of reasons. For one thing, the division registrars that are usually on these documents, they don't have the authority to issue a birth certificate. So the birth certificate and the statement of birth record that's filled in generally at the hospital are not one and the same. And in fact, when you go to the table of contents, you'll find out on most Vital Statistics Acts that the birth certificate is not defined to be the hospital record that the parents fill out on the child. So when we look at no share capital or birth certificate purport of share capital, we've already gone through the law that it says there is no provision in the Canadian legal system for an individual. Individual in the Canadian Law Dictionary, 4th edition, define that under the 7th part of that definition for individual as not a member of a family, referring to the Roman definition of family, which would refer to the surname generally used in our society, which meant you were part of the legal stock. So there is no provision in the Canadian legal system for an individual, not a member of a legal family, to transfer, that means convey, write, speak, their given names to anyone, whether to a person, a corporation, or a trust, which the Office of the Registrar General is. It says any document that would purport to do so would in itself be invalid, and just making a copy of it and notarizing it doesn't give it any more validity. So why the seal is outside the frame is for a good reason, because your fate is not sealed in this. There's a decision that's going to be made. So when we really look at this document, if there is no provision to transfer that, then let's just take that off the document. Let's take the given name off the document for this moment. Then there would only be the surname. If you've ever seen some registrations, actually even some certificates, before they actually get the given name of the child by the parent, it'll actually only say baby boy, and we'll use Smith as a last name for illustration. It'll say baby boy Smith or baby girl Smith, but it will not have the given name on it, because that is the registered child in the legal system. And in fact, that when we went through the explanation, at least for Ontario, under the Vital Statistics Act, Section 15 was dealing about a registration that is done that did not have a given name on it. Well, they already said the registration was done, so therefore the registration would only be the registration, which would only be dealing with the legal surname. The fact that it would say there was a registration done and then a child later could elect to add their given name into the registration, and then upon paying the appropriate fee would receive a birth certificate. So therefore, without the given name, there's no birth certificate. So if there's no provision to transfer it, we have to look at it that way, because it didn't need to be on there, and therefore it could never have been demanded. So you would have no share then, because there'd be no given name trying to make claim to a legal title on that document. Now, when they issue these wallet size, at one time, most of them were wallet size certificates. That's the general process that I found from examples of different birth certificates worldwide. But at least within Canada, most of them were issued in wallet size form, small. And interestingly, it would state the fact on the document, or what you see there, it would only say name. It would never say given name or surname, first name or last name. Therefore, it's left very ambiguous and unclear. So to say that this is a share certificate would be ridiculous, because it doesn't define whose share it is. So it looks on the surface to be something that would imply a share, but it's actually really not a share. And when I went through the whole research on these certificates, and I went to basically what it was defined in some letters of communication between the Registrar Generals and people that were inquiring about the birth certificate, it would be referred to as a valuable token. The only thing I could find about valuable token, at least in the Canadian law dictionaries, was counterfeit token of value. Because when I went to token of value, it said see counterfeit token of value. So there was no definition for a token of value. Well, I guess in a de facto nation, which all these nations are, which are not de jure, the only thing you could have is a counterfeit token of value. Because they could never transfer you title even from a de jure level if they were granting you title to use by the Crown. So we got a real crazy scene going on here, and I'm there with empathy on those doing the research. All I'm doing is sharing what I've found over the years, and we're just trying to get down to the foundation of truth and fact, not fiction. So if you believe that you're going to chase this and you're going to be able to prove that you have share capital, this certificate does not give the evidence of such. It's just a purport. It's alleging to do that. Uniquely, when they authenticate the signature and seal of provincial authorities, in the United States they may call that apostilling. In Canada we don't do apostilling. Something to do with not being part of Hague to some extent. They basically will not touch this. This is like kryptonite. They will not authenticate it. So there must be something problematic on this that they won't authenticate it. But even when they authenticate this document, they only authenticate the seal of the minister, which would be the Registrar General, and their signature. They do not authenticate the contents of the document, because there would be no point, because there's no ability for them to place the given name on there in authority, because they didn't have it. So it was just a mistake. And because this whole world works under mistake and error, of course, the book of Peter talks about those who live in error. It also talks, by Peter's words, about them making merchandise out of you by feigned words. As we talked in a previous video, the word fictio or fiction, which is what a fabled genealogy would be with these last names, is in brackets in Black's Law 10th edition for fictio or fiction. It has in brackets to feign. I don't think they've hidden anything. It's just maybe we weren't looking. Because I, walked past a tree and didn't really notice it, doesn't mean the tree's not there. The signs are there, but we're not seeing it because we may be choosing not to, because maybe the reality of what we've just discovered seems too terrible. Everything that you possibly may have ever done was registered in something that really wasn't yours. You possibly have placed it into something, all your labor and time and energies, into something that was nothing more than an imagination, a fiction. Is this what man has walked into since sin in the Garden of Eden? Eating from the forbidden fruit? So is this just the same test? Would you eat from the forbidden fruit? So is this just a forbidden document in reality? Because maybe they're bidding on whether the evil is bidding on whether or not you're going to take from it. And then they run a little game or a gaming betting, parimutuel betting scam, where they're betting on the horses, and they wonder whether or not the child that comes out of that is going to enter that human race, that fictitious race, not of mankind, but of humankind. And will he really believe this is his share? And will he surety it? All the things we've talked about. So back to this. The best I can feel on this is more evidence of a no-share document. If you get a chance to look up the term joker, it's a legal term that's used for a document that is really has a meaning that's opposite to what may appear on the document. So this isn't a go-ahead document to claim the title. This is actually a warning document of forbidden. And so the legal is forbidden if you're looking for spirituality. you can't be on both sides of it. You can't be in legal and in free grace. One is a direction to earn your salvation. The other one, we know from Christ, is a spiritual gift. You can't earn that gift. It was given to all freely. So best I can say is the little what we talk about in the birth certificate field is nothing more than a purport of a share, but it's not really a share.